Hello, everyone. It's another week and another day and a good day for us. And I welcome all of you to our weekly Neurodivergent Business Consortium's webinar. And we have a special guest today and to contribute a lot, I would say. And I do apologize that our regular guest speaker for this episode were become off sick, so I could not, she could not join. So that's why we got another speaker, and we will talk about how can I build my mental resilience in a practical way. So you know that throughout our program, we talk about neurodiversity, we talk about mental health, we talk about workspace, and a lot of different individuals topic to support you and to guide you through to workplace, guide you through business, your personal life, and so on. So today we have a special guest, and I will introduce him in a minute. Before I start, if you wanted to ask any question, please feel free to ask us through the comment box, and we will try our best to answer your question. And be safe because you probably traveling or in office or somewhere else watching our program. So be safe and at any point, safety is first priority, and then we would love your support and your contribution to our webinars. And I will add our guest to the stage now. And we have John Rice. Uh, I wanted to let you know that he's an expert and mentor and coach for supporting you mental resilience with his program, and he's working for many years now. And I'm very glad that we have him with us. And I wanted to ask John if you could introduce yourself to our audience, what you do, and what is your specialization, and then our audience will understand you and we work better.
Thanks, Shah. I'm really pleased to be here today, and thank you very much for the invite. I, first of all, would like to say and be vulnerable that my journey in mental fitness started in about 2017 officially. I suffered a major period of depression during that time and went to the doctors and had some antidepressants, which really helped me. But I did know that I needed to do a lot of work myself to get better. So that journey began, and in about 2018, I was ready to start studying coaching and mentoring. Mental fitness has always fascinated me. Had some antidepressants. It means to me that looking at two different individuals, one person can cope with the situation very well, and another person, perhaps like myself, just fell apart. So I was intrigued by the differences in people, and we are all different. So, you know, the things that I'm saying to you today are from a very personal perspective, but also from my knowledge of deep coaching in the last 5 years. I will say there are some general themes that will help you build your mental resilience, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So thanks for the introduction, Shah.
It is my pleasure, John, because I also thankful that at the last minute you confirmed that you're going to come, and I was delighted because uh, I told you that last week we had the same situation that one of our guest speaker couldn't come, and we got someone from the audience. Yes, I know him for many years now, but that was a good event afterwards. And today, I we will have a great event, and we will have. I will ask our audience if you wanted to ask us any questions regarding mental resilience, and if you can spot anything during our conversation, that would be great. So, if I move to our segments, this program is divided in two sections. The first section we will talk about in brief about John's work and other things, and then we will understand what it meant identify mental resilience, how it is important, and so on. And the next last segment is how we can deal with it, and what should we do. Um, so, my first question to you, can you tell our audience a bit more understanding, like what is mental resilience, and how do you, deal with it?
Well, thanks, Shah. I think the best description of mental resilience is probably maybe even a metaphor. I think most of us understand the need to be reasonably physically fit. And if you're physically fit, you can climb a hill, for example, with ease. And, if you're mentally fit, then you can deal with life's inevitable ups and downs, again, with relative ease. I think that one important thing to say, Shah, perhaps also starting with the statement that your mental resilience is a journey. And I love thinking of it like that, because when you think of your mental resilience practice as a journey, there is no destination. And I know that might seem a bit strange, but I think often in life, especially these days, we think, well, I'll know when I'm there, or when I get to a certain point, I'll know that I'm mentally fit. I can say to you that everybody in the world is on a journey with their mental fitness, and we're not comparing anybody. We're on our own personal journey, and you will feel better when you realize that there isn't a destination. So the pressure is off. And I think it's also important, Shah, to mention right now what mental resilience is not. And I think this is an important place to start from. It's not plowing through and putting up with things that you know aren't serving you. It's not depending on drugs. I absolutely appreciate and acknowledge that antidepressants can be helpful. And if you need to stay on them, you should absolutely stay on them. If you have a chemical imbalance in your brain and antidepressants are helping you for the rest of your life, stay on them. This is not an alternative. It's a supplement to building mental resilience. So whether you're on them or not. So it's what else is not mental resilience? Mental resilience is not getting angry every day at yourself. It's being compassionate towards yourself. It's being kind to yourself. And I think that is probably, Shah, one of the most important things to realize. There is no pressure with you, or there should be no pressure on yourself to get better or feel better. But doing some daily practices that we're going to talk about a bit later, you will absolutely build that mental fitness. So like going to the gym, you wouldn't expect to go to the gym and lift the heaviest weight in the gym straight away. And just as your mental fitness journey begins, you don't expect to solve the biggest problems in your life straight away. So I hope that explains a little bit more and perhaps takes some pressure off people thinking that they are less than they should be. That is not true. We all have our innate wisdom, and we all have everything we need inside us to get better and to build our mental resilience.
That's quite fascinating, John, as we talk about mental resilience, and it's all about your development, isn't it? Because when you don't have a mental, settled mental state, you cannot grow, you cannot serve, and your world is like ending everywhere. So, in terms of, I just wanted to ask you the next questions. Why it is crucial at the work place and as well as at home? Why it is very important to
Yeah, I
implement?
mean, I will answer that, Shah. I mean, let's use another analogy. I believe that if you get a good night's sleep, you feel on top of the world the next day. And if you get an awful night's sleep, then you don't feel so good. And it's just the same with mental resilience. And I'm not really separating the two between work and home. I'm saying they're both equally important. And I even use in my coaching that there is no work-life balance. I don't particularly like that term. I like to use the term work-life integration, because balance always implies that one side is losing out. But let's imagine you show up better for work, you show up more positively, you're more able to deal with, let's face it, we all have difficult people or difficult situations in our lives. And perhaps it's worth talking a little bit here about what I probably consider to be the major source of how we self-sabotage, and that is the word judgment. We judge ourselves for not being good enough in situations. We judge others for not being good enough, and we judge situations too. So a few examples might be, why can't I get that promotion at work? I'm just not good enough. That's an example of self-judgment. If we then talked about judgment of others, and by the way, if you judge yourself harshly, you are very, very likely to judge other people as well. So judging other people might be, why can't this person just understand and do what I'm asking? And that might be a work-related issue. And then we might look at our circumstances and say, I wish I had a bigger house. I don't know what's wrong with me. Why can't I earn more money? I don't like my situation. Now, the beginning of mental resilience is really starting with yourself. So everything starts inside of us. And if we can lessen that judgment in ourselves, we will absolutely and automatically judge other people less and judge situations less.
Okay. Um, you know, as we in the community and workplace, as well as educational, due to my educational career, we hear a lot of different things that you mentioned now. That okay, am I good enough, or I'm not getting the results that I wanted, and that gave us a lot of pressure, lot of pressure, because understanding our capacity and then doubting our capacity is two different things, because we might be capable of doing a lot of different things, and very good at a lot of different things, but in a touch point where some decision maker, they made a decision that okay, I'm not a good one, they chose someone else for promotion or any opportunities that may raise, what we should do in their circumstances in relation of to mental resilience.
I honestly believe, Shah, that self-compassion and love for yourself is not selfish. It's looking after your own needs first. There's a reason, we all know this, and as again, another practical example, there's a reason that air stewardesses and ask us to put our own oxygen mask on first if there's a problem. If we can't put that oxygen mask on, we've no chance of helping our children, our family, or other fellow passengers. And I like that analogy because it's so true of self-compassion and looking after yourself. So, it could be some, it doesn't need to be anything big either. Looking after yourself might be saying to your partner or to somebody at work, I just need 5 minutes now. I need 5 minutes to be calm. I need to think about this situation. We don't immediately have to react. And it's this self-compassion that will enable us to grow. The self-compassion element of emotional intelligence or mental resilience is absolutely fundamental. If you can't be compassionate and look after yourself in the long term or even in the medium term, you won't be able to help other people either.
I understand. I understand. How can we recognize the sign that I need some help?
I'm sorry, Shah, repeat the question.
Like, how can I recognize the signs that I need some help in relation of mental resilience?
That's a great question. I mean, this is, I guess, almost the $1,000,000 question. Some people in their nature and their character are very open and vulnerable. And I will say to you that vulnerability is a strength as long as you trust the person that you're talking to. Let's explore that a little bit, Shah, because that's a really great point that you've brought up. I think some of the things that you can do immediately, if you recognize yourself that you're not coping in life in any situation as well as you'd like to, that's the beginning of the journey. This realization that you may need some help. And I guess give you some examples practically that might be able to be used by people. I've used them myself. I think when we can show gratitude for things that we do have in our lives, I think, of course, there are some people with some awful circumstances in their lives, and I'm not talking about those really serious, maybe life-threatening situations, but most of the time we can recognize that we either need some help or that we could do with some self-care. Now, the self-care doesn't need to be anything massive or big. As I said to you before, it could be taking a 5-minute break. It could be walking into nature if that's possible for you. There's massive scientific studies that show just a few minutes walk in a natural surrounding is good. And I'm not going to use words like clear your head or, stop thoughts coming, because that is impossible. I think it's a really a great thing to recognize that whoever you are, even if you're a monk practicing Buddhism in Tibet, you will still have thoughts and you will still think about the things that are going on in your mind. What you can begin to do is to think about what feelings you're attaching to those thoughts. So I love the phrase, and this means so many different things to different people, but if I was set to say this to you, Shah, and to the audience, nobody can make me feel in a way that I do not think. I'll
Understand.
repeat that. Nobody can make me feel in a way that I do not think. Now, this could mean many things to many people. To me, a practical example might be, I have a 5-year-old daughter and she's very demanding sometimes, and I'm busy at work and she might be shouting for me to come and help her do something. And I can react to that thought that's happening in many different ways, but it's the feeling that I attach to it that really matters. And it takes practice. I am not a complete expert, of course. Nobody is. This is why we talked about the journey concept at the beginning. But if my daughter's, shouting and screaming for some attention, then I can go to her with love, I can go with understanding, or I can go and shout at her. And I know which one I prefer, and I know which one gets the better result. So we'll come on a bit later, Shah, to how we can, if I was to describe your brain and how it functions, through many years of habit, we have a default reaction to most situations, and that is usually by attaching a thought, which may not always be a positive thought, to a situation. And I call this the well-trodden road, or as the scientists would call it, a neural pathway. We build up neural pathways in our brain. It is absolutely possible with practice to press pause before we attach a thought, a feeling to the thought, and create a new neural pathway. And again, it's been proven with MRI scans that in only 6 weeks of regular daily practice, maybe just 15 minutes a day, you can rewire your brain to have that press pause, and then you can respond to a situation in a different way.
I totally agree with you. As you talk about the um, neurodiversity and neuron and other things, in practically, we talk about neuroplasticity, because that is a core thing for any person, even neurodivergent or non-divergent people. You will have some neuroplasticity. Your neurons, if you deal with them in a right way, they will transform your life. They will transform your mental state, and they will transform many, many different things. Even the scientific research was carried out with some of the universities that when you have uh, paralysis and other neurological conditions, uh, with the neuroplasticity, with teaching them and training them, you can get great results. And that is a very good question. So, in relation with your neuroplasticity, I just wanted to ask you that how you determine neuroplasticity or neuron and to match with the hot stove.
Okay, so a great question, Shah. So I like this an analogy or metaphor, whatever you'd like to call it. If I asked you, how long would you keep your hand on a hot stove?
Ah, that depends how long I can manage to keep my neuron steady, isn't it? It might be different than a different person. Yesterday, I was watching some YouTube shorts, and over there was a video that someone is pulling pakora. You know Indian pakoras
Mm.
uh, from burning oil, and they are showing their hands. They didn't have any side effects of putting their hands to the pakoras. And I was like, whoosh, uh, how is it possible? Because I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that. And my son, when I asked him to do something, he was, oh, it's very hot. And I said, no, 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 it's not hot. You see, I'm touching. And he will always tell me, Dad, you are a grown up. I'm a child. so so yeah, if you could describe that, yeah.
So I think, like you said, Shah, most people, this warning of the heat on your hand is absolutely necessary and needed for survival. So you touch a hot stove and you would remove your hand immediately. And I like to use this with practice that you can absolutely do the same with negative thoughts. So if you begin to have a feeling or a negative thought which is not useful or productive for you, by training your brain, and I love your explanation, Shah, about neuroplasticity. This means rewiring the chemistry and the neurons in your brain to create a different way of thinking. So I could ask the same question: how long would you like to think about a negative, unhelpful, or hurtful thought? And the answer would be as little time as possible, please. And I know myself, things have happened in my life, Shah, that I've dwelled on maybe for years sometimes. I think it can be a really useful thing to think about. If you could and you can rewire your brain, and it doesn't, that sounds a bit technical. So let's boil it down to something much simpler. If you can retrain the way that you think and retrain yourself to only think about a negative thought for a second or two instead of dwelling on it for days, months, years, or the whole of your life. I speak to some people who've been holding on to negative and stressful things forever. So it's absolutely with a daily practice, and this is the key. It has to be consistent. It has to be a daily practice. I think we'd all agree that you wouldn't expect to go to the gym for 3 days and then say, right, I'm fit now. I don't need to do anything else for my physical fitness. I'm glad I went to the gym 3 times. Of course, there's a commitment to mental resilience, but that commitment, you will very soon begin to see very, very positive results.
that's 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 the thing that we need to understand. When we achieve something, sometimes what we do when we achieve and we forgot the hard work we have done for that, and on the next day we don't carry it out because uh, the exercise and the mental resilience and other things, it's a matter that you practice again and again and again till you enter life till you die, isn't it? Because
Yeah.
your mental state could be hampered with the thing that you are not experience of, because our life, we experience now and then different things, and something in future we might not be ready. So if we don't practice uh, in relation with, as I say, neuroplasticity or mental resilience on other things, we are not ready, isn't it? Like pandemic, we were not ready. We were on a cocoon. Like you
Absolutely.
cannot talk. Yeah. So in relation of that, how well defined we should be to carry it out to our day-to-day activities, and how much time do we need to invest in?
Well, Shah, we've spoken about it, and you're very interested in it. I'm qualified and certified as an emotional intelligence coach through a wonderful organisation called Positive Intelligence, and the leader and owner of Positive Intelligence is a wonderful man called Shazad Charmaine. He had a pretty awful and traumatic childhood. He probably went through 30, nearly 40 years of his life with clinical depression. And then he started to think about how he got very interested in neuroplasticity and the rewiring or retraining of the brain. And he's now taken, and I'm one of them, thank goodness, many coaches through this program, but also many people, perhaps, like your audience. And he has proven, and science has proven, that in just 6 weeks of 15-minute practice a day, now that 15 minutes is not all in one chunk, so it's very manageable. It's 2 or 3 minutes, 3 or 4 times a day. And it's that repetitive, bringing yourself back to a point in your mind, and thoughts will come. I think I said right at the beginning of our chat, Shah, you cannot stop thoughts. Thoughts will come, and anybody who tells you that they can stop their thoughts must have done many, many years of practice. For you, me, and everybody else, I would imagine listening, even if you did 1 or 2 hours of meditation a day, outside of that meditation practice, you are still going to get thoughts that come, and you cannot stop them. What this practice does, and it's been shown on MRI scans, they've taken scans of the brain at the beginning of the 6-week program and at the end of the program. There are differences in brain chemistry in only 6 weeks if people commit to do that 15 minutes practice a day. So, I mean, we're going to come on to a practical example, and I'm going to show you how to do one of these. They're called PQ reps, positive quotient reps at the end of this session. Excuse me a moment. Yeah, we'll come on to doing some practical steps near the end, but with a commitment of only 15 minutes a day, you can achieve the beginning of your mental resilience journey.
When we talk about mental resilience, we also talk about our health and well-being, and how we combine these three things together. Because one is health and well-being, another one is mental resilience. So if I'm doing exercise, probably in the gym or freehand exercise, that could be, and how they are related to each other.
I'm really glad you brought this up, Shah, because it's a really important question. I like to describe the ingredients of mental resilience a bit like making a cake, and I'm going to mention a few ingredients now. So I mentioned earlier that I believe that sleep is very important. I used not to sleep very well. I now am much more relaxed about my sleep. So sleep is what I would say is one of the foundations for mental resilience. It's a whole other subject, so we won't dwell on it, but I'm going to give you what I consider to be the 4 ingredients that are all needed at certain times in varying amounts to achieve the journey to mental resilience. The second one is, I'm going to call it movement, because exercise, sometimes physical exercise, has some negative connotations for people. We all understand the importance of moving our body and moving it regularly. Maybe it's stretching, maybe it's out for a short walk. Of course, there are varying degrees of physical exercise, and whatever, I would say to you, whatever you find enjoyable, whatever you find gives you joy, that's what you should start with. You can always increase as time goes on. The third ingredient is, won't be any surprise to you, Shah, is what you eat. I think there are so many studies now that are showing the link between the gut biome and mental health. And again, a completely different and very interesting subject, which we won't go into. Now, nobody is suggesting you have to eat completely healthily all the time. It has to be a personal choice. But if you know that certain foods don't react well with you, or you don't feel good after them, I'd say listen to your body. If most foods suit you, then by all means eat them. The fourth one, which is a very interesting one, and studies are still continuing, but I absolutely believe how true this is. I'm going to call it connection. Some people might call it spirituality. Some people might call it religion. But I'm going to say to you that the most important connections, and I'm talking about people in your life, are extremely important for your mental resilience. So close friendships, I think we all understand the importance of having those. I think some studies have shown that people who have close connections, someone they can talk to, someone they can confide in, someone they trust, can live 10 years longer, and they probably have a much happier life. So I think that's a complex way of answering your question, but I think those four pillars, or those four foundations, are absolutely necessary in varying amounts for a mental resilience journey.
Excellent, excellent, John. I wouldn't know if you did, if I wouldn't have you with me today. The information I'm getting in relation of the mental resilience is fabulous. So I just have another question to you. Like, what is the inside-out approach to mental well-being?
I love this question. I love this question, Shah. So I'm not going to make it complicated because I don't think it is. But I really truly believe, and I didn't always believe this, maybe when I was feeling very depressed or even before in my life, but I think we can and should attempt to live an inside out life. So that means whatever I'm thinking about, whatever I'm doing in my life, however I am responsible for my own emotions. I'm responsible for my own feelings. I'm responsible for my thoughts. So, you know, I think there was a wonderful lady, and I'll have to forgive me, I can't remember her name. She's a very famous Auschwitz survivor. She was taken with her parents into Auschwitz at the end of the Second World War. And she said to herself the day that she entered Auschwitz that she knew she had to see the prisoners who were keeping her captive and killing her family and friends. She had to see those guards as the prisoners, and that she herself was free.
Mm-hmm.
And that amazing way of looking at things from a different perspective, from owning what was happening there, she actually survived. And I still think at probably age of 95 or 96, she's still alive today. And I think it goes back to something we were talking about, Shah, at the beginning of this conversation, and that is how people can be so different in how they're perceiving the things that are happening outside of their control. So this is why I love to call it the inside out approach. You know, bad things are going to happen. Challenging situations are going to occur. We all have the inevitable ups and downs of life. Every single person does. That's what it is to be human. It's how we manage those inside ourselves. And this is the most important part of the mental resilience journey that we've been talking about. An acceptance that you own and you are responsible for how you show up in the world. And you are also responsible for the feelings that you attach to all of your thoughts. It takes practice. It takes commitment. but it's a wonderful journey, Shah.
I totally agree with you, John. Uh, as we're discussing, I just gonna ask our audience if you have any question, please feel free to ask us through the comment box. And you are watching our live webinar on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. And if you have any question, please feel free to ask from the comment box. And I'm Dr. Shah Siddiqui, and we have John Rice. Um, the leading CEO of mental resilience. And we are talking about how you can cope with and how you can prepare yourself to be ready for mental resilience. And we have a question from our office that do you have any suggestion for how we become mental resilient? What are the practice and how we can achieve this?
Yeah, I mean, it goes towards a lot of the foundations that I've talked about today. I will keep using the physical fitness analogy because, as I've said, I think most of us absolutely get that some form of physical activity and fitness is important. And if you decide and you're probably not going to wake up one day and say, I'd like to start my mental resilience journey. But some of the ways that we can start is by recognizing what we would like to improve in ourselves. A great question to ask yourself is, what am I tolerating right now? So if you're tolerating something and you know it's either not good for you, it's not serving you, it doesn't make you happy, it's not helping your family or your friends or your work colleagues, I think this introspection and looking at yourself is a very, very important part of the beginning of the journey. So, you may say to yourself, "I'm not patient." Perhaps use myself as an example. I'm not being patient with my family, or I'm being impatient with my daughter. So that that is a kind of source of pain. And as I've said before, we should be kind to ourselves because we should be celebrating the fact that we have recognized that we want to change and that we want to do something about it. So I've said a couple of times, Shah, we are going to do a couple of very practical exercises at the end of the webinar if we have time.
Mhm.
I'd also like to state now that if anybody watching would like a chat with me, I'm absolutely happy to have that outside of this kind recording that Shah is doing for us. I believe myself that my mental resilience journey was a shock start because probably like most people, and there was a bit of a taboo for me, of course, with admitting that I needed some help and that I was, I always thought antidepressants were for other people. But that was kind of I don't know whether to call it a kickstart or a wake up call. I would have been quite happy in 2017 to have pressed a button. And if that button meant that John Rice didn't exist, I would disappear from the world, I'd probably have pushed that button. I've said to many people on many different circumstances and situations, I would have been far too much of a coward to take my own life. That doesn't mean that I don't absolutely. My heart goes out to people who have had suicides in their family. I absolutely do not believe it is a coward's way out. I think it takes absolute strength to realize you don't want to be here anymore. But what I would love to say to everybody is there is always an opportunity to work on that, to ask for help. And I think to answer your participants' question, it's recognizing when you want help, when you need help, and not being afraid to ask for it.
That's that's very good information and as well as guidance, I would say. Uh, you know, in the community, we have mental health problems, and many of our community people they suffer from mental health, and it's every day we hear that okay, someone died and someone took their own life, and lots of different things happening. So, in that aspect, we have to have our mental capacity in a stable way, that we don't do that the story you just shared, that okay, you wanted to take your own life but you didn't, and we don't have the trigger point. Some people, they might say, okay, I have a trigger point, so I will escape that. But many of us will not have that trigger point. They will do what I would say, to make them feel happy. Okay, if I suicide, everything will go away. My pain will go away. But the effects of their death to their family, to community, and to their um, society, it's massive, isn't it? So,
Mm.
if we could help support our audience and support our community, just talking to them, increasing their mental resilience, and give them a stable state, that would be great. So, to our audience, today we are talking about mental resilience, and you know that this is a very important topic that we should talk about. Sometimes we don't think that we can talk about our mental health. Sometimes we don't think that it is necessarily needed for us to be happy, because we are in a society, sometimes we deprive ourselves. So we shouldn't deprive. So if you wanted to talk to John Rees, please feel free to contact him through the LinkedIn social channels. And he's the best person for you to guide you through. He runs his program, and I'm also attending the next intake of his program, because we need to know how we can deal with mental resilience, how we can deal with our neuroplasticity as a neurodivergent person. I always feel that okay, there is something that we can learn, there is something that we can change, and the change is you. It's not the change the society, because when you change, you will get the society to change, and that's the thing that we should do. So, in our next segment, we're going to ask more questions. And to our audience, if you wanted to ask John any question, feel free to ask through the comment box. Otherwise, we'll continue our talk. We are nearly end of our session. We will have another 15 minutes or so on, but we will talk about mental resilience, and we will also do the practical exercise from John. John, when we talk about the mental resilience and science, how does the science work when you talk about mental resilience?
Well, I mean, we've touched on it, and I will hold my hands up. I bet you, Shah, you know much more of the science of this than me. What I will say to you was that the Positive Intelligence 6-week program that I run is based in scientific fact. It's very important to Shazad, the creator, that he can prove that things that we do in this 6-week program work. I really believe that the repetitive and the committed nature of people that join the program, they will get the most from it. We've all experienced gym membership where we've joined in January, ready with a great New Year's resolution, and it's all fallen off by March, and I include myself in that. It was also thought, I think you'll know this, Shah, that it was thought maybe even only up to a few years ago that neuroplasticity, it declined as we got older. But that has been proven to not be the case now. It's absolutely true. And I look at my daughter who's 5, her neuroplasticity and her ability to change is far, far greater and easier than it is for me. But it has been shown that it is absolutely possible into our 70s, 80s, 90s, right until the day we leave this world, that we can create new neural pathways, which is the term that you've used, neuroplasticity. So, again, I really don't want to labor the point, but if you go to the gym regularly and you're committed to going and it becomes a habit, and your goal is to build muscle, for example, there's nothing different than building mental fitness. You will build mental muscle, which is another great way of looking at it. And that mental muscle allows you to do things differently, to think about things differently, to use the more creative side of your brain rather than the logical survival brain. Now, that's something we haven't talked about yet, Shah, but you know, we are hardwired as humans, for example, to resist change. If we were in a tribe 6,000 years ago and you know, I stood up and said, I want to do something differently, you would either be killed or you would be asked to leave that tribe and you would die. So we are hardwired not to stand up and say, I want to change, I want to do this. That is one of the reasons that we find it quite hard to build habits as well. So there's no reason why we can't work on that, though. And this is what the resilience journey is about. It's accepting the fact that we can change and then having a willingness to do something about it.
I understand. I always talk about willingness. You probably know my story. Um, I was a very odd child, and I did not have a good development and growth. And I was suffered many, many years for many, many reasons. It's not like particularly one reason, but the willingness of my inside willingness, the mental resilience, the neuroplasticities, all of those things played a critical part, the person I am now. So that's why I come up with this group that okay, we need to support people. You came along maybe last year that I was talking to you, and your work. Uh, I like the way you support people because this is the way for our community to sustain. Because we go to gym, that's okay, that's for good health. But before going to gym, we need the mental stability. We need to know what we want. I was giving gym membership for many times and give up because my physical strength and with gym it doesn't sit all the time because I have weaknesses on my limbs and I cannot cope with that. But when I exercise mental resilience, when I exercise other things, uh, that helped me a lot. And that's for that reasons I'm here. And thank you very much, John, for your time today. And we just wanted to do the exercise. We have another 15 minutes, so on. So if we wanted to do the exercise, please lead us how we can do it.
Brilliant. Thank you, Shah. Well, just as Dr. Shah said at the beginning of this webinar, you must make sure that you are in a safe place to do this. If you're not, please listen, but don't do what I'm asking you to do. If you're driving, if you're anywhere where you are not able to sit and be still and not be in charge of machinery, just want to state that right now. So be safe first. It's a very simple way, and one of the most important things about the way that we're going to do now is nobody else needs to know that you're doing it. So this is a practical way. If you're feeling stressed, if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're feeling you just need to bring yourself back into your own calm mind, this is what you can do. So if it is safe to do so, it will help if you can close your eyes, but you don't have to. So in fact, please don't for a second, because you need to look at what I'm going to do. So there are a number of ways to do this exercise, and this is one of them. And there are many others that I can show you if we have a chat outside. So what this action is going to do, it's going to bring you out of your stressful thinking, if only for a few seconds. And it's going to help you concentrate on something. It could be one of the five senses. We're going to use touch for this one. So I'm going to show you now. I'm rubbing very gently my thumb and my forefinger together. And I'd like you just to feel the sensations there. See if you can feel the ridges of your fingerprint on both your thumb and your forefinger. And just feel the sensations of touch. So you can imagine right now, without closing your eyes, You could be doing this at work, you could be doing this at home. No one needs to know you're doing it. And it will then immediately bring you into a feeling literally of touch. So that sensation, that very small movement of thumb and forefinger, and if you just concentrate on the feelings, if a thought comes, which it's bound to, then just keep going. If you feel that you can't do that one, another great one, and it's another physical one, is just to wriggle your toes in your shoes. See if you can find each individual toe in your shoes. You might be able to separate your toes. You might be able to move most of them. I can't move one of mine because I broke it. You might be the same. But just feel that sensation of feeling and trying to find each individual toe. Now, what this is doing in your brain, it is creating a pause in your busy life. It's creating a pause in what you're thinking. Of course, that thought or other thoughts will come, but even if it is just for a few seconds, and this is all you'll need initially, is a few seconds to start creating this new neural pathway. This is the very beginning of the fundamentals of the mental resilience journey. So if you do that whenever you're feeling stressed or worn out, or whatever the negative emotion is that you're feeling, it will bring you back into this sensation, this feeling of touch, if only for a few seconds. And I promise you, the more you do it, the more you will be able to concentrate for more than a few seconds. There's no goal, there's no aim to say it has to be a minute or 2 minutes. I do know that people I've worked with practice can easily within the 6 weeks manage to achieve a minute without having an intrusive thought. That is building the new neural pathway.
Excellent, excellent. Being a neurodivergent person, you will probably see that many of us, we need something to our hands most of the time. We do it all the time. Like when we are tense, stressed, we will find something on our hands to rub with, to make us soothing and get rid of our emotion and other
Yep.
things. And that's practically and scientifically that's proven. So to our audience, if you wanted to ask John any question, please feel free to ask through the comment box. We are nearly end of our session. We just have another 8 minutes to go. We're going to talking through more about mental resilience, and as well as how we can uh, create a coping mechanism, because when you are in a state that everything is not on your capacity, you have to build yourself to cope with the situation. Because if you cannot cope, if you cannot trigger it down, then there's the mishap happening. We lost, and human lost, and a lot of different things happen at that point, and that is not the good thing. So you're probably a positive person or negative person or whatever you are, because we are human and we have varieties of the characters, and we can deal with it. Specifically, when you deal with mental resilience, when we deal with neuroplasticity, when we are kind to other people. Like, okay, if someone yesterday on BBC that there was just a little bit of talking and quarrel, someone killed someone, that shouldn't be happening, because we have to let it go. We have to let it go. We have to be kind all the time, that we feel for other people, and mental resilience and practice all of those things that will make us stronger as well as settled. And John, thank you very much for today, for this coming to talk to our audience in a short time. And we will continue to this program due to the end. I just have another question to you. Uh, how can I improve my mental resilience if I start today?
If you start today, I think first of all, there's an acknowledgement, and you should congratulate yourself that you have realized that you want to. That for many people is the beginning of their journey. And I won't use a negative and say Many people don't ever or achieve a realization that they do want to improve their mental resilience. I believe that we all can, and that's a choice. I love what you said before, Shah, that we do have a choice in everything that we do. If I think another great way of looking at this is, is the story that I told about the little girl in Auschwitz. She could have perceived and seen that situation for what it was, and she probably wouldn't have survived. So I think it's looking at ourselves and saying, do we feel that we'd like to be better people ourselves? It's not about showing off to anyone else or saying I'm mentally resilient. If you truly know that you want to change and that you want some help, then there are so many ways. And this program I've talked about today is only one of them, Shah. There are many ways. Some people manage mental resilience by themselves. Some people manage it by diversion. And what I mean by that is they might get extremely physically fit. We know that endorphins help the brain. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing or a good thing. It's how each individual copes and wants to grow. I would say if you have a genuine curiosity and interest in being more resilient, dwelling on negative thoughts for much less time, using what I would call the sage part of your brain, which is the positive, creative, wonderful feeling that anything in the world is possible, you can absolutely do that.
That's quite great and fascinating. As I'll be joining your program, so to our audience, if you wanted to talk to John, um, if you want have mental stability, and if you are suffering and you don't know what to do, where to start, I think you just need to stop right now and think the best thing for your family, as well as for your community. Because when we have mental health problems, we normally don't think about our family, that they will be the greater sufferer, our community, and the country. So every step you will take wrongfully, that will not. It's not like that ending your life will resolve everything. No, that will create more complications. That will create more things, diverse things that people cannot control that. So if you are in mental health problems and if you wanted to uh, support your community, support your family, you need to have in good mental health states. And in that uh, way, John is the right person to support you with mental resilience. His program is fabulous and he's supporting many, many individuals globally. Um, Not in the UK, not in Europe, not in America, lots of individual countries around the globe. He's supporting different communities with his program for mental resilience, and he's a coach and he's supporting you. And you will understand with his program uh, that you are in good state when you experience, when you support yourself. So today, I thank you all for waiting for a long time and watching us talking to mental health and a lot of other topics. And we very appreciate your support, and we will bring another guest next week to talk about something else that will support you, all the neurodivergent people and non-neurodivergent people together. Uh, we are nearly end of the session, so I will ask John if you have any closing remarks to add.
Yeah, I'd just like to say, Shah, that if anyone is suffering now, it's really important that you get professional help. If you are feeling really depressed or suicidal, I will be honest and say to you, you must see your doctor, you must go and see a professional counselor. I would say, Shah, that the mental resilience journey begins there. And when you're chemical imbalance or when you've been diagnosed, then is the time to come to me and to say, I'm ready to start my journey. I just wanted that to say that important thing, Shah. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a doctor of medicine. And I think it's really important that I say where my boundaries lie. my boundaries lie in that you should absolutely seek professional help if you're feeling suicidal. So there are many wonderful organizations that you can go to, but I would be absolutely delighted once you've been there, or if you're not in that serious mental state at the moment, I would absolutely love to have a conversation with you, work with you. I've got a great assessment that I can send you after here, where you can have a look at how you may be self-sabotaging at the moment, and the program will absolutely address that.
Thank you very much, John. We are nearly end of our station. We're going to be ending the station in a few seconds' time. So, to our audience, thank you again for your support, and we will bring another guest next week, talk about neurodiversity and neurodiversity related problems and cultural problems, societies, and others so on. So until then, stay tuned, and we need your support to our organization, Neurodivergent Business Consortium, and all other local organizations. They are working with neurodivergent people as well as non-neurodivergent people to support their mental health, finance, and a lot of different causes. So stay tuned, and we will welcome you next week. Until then, thank you very much, and bye bye.